Hello and welcome back to Frogboy X1 Gaming. I'm Andrew, and today we're going to talk about PlayStation and Xbox apologists. So if you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get started with the show. So, what do I mean by PlayStation or Xbox apologists? Well, simply put, these are fanboys that will excuse anything no matter what. And the truth of the matter is not everybody's an apologist. I'm simply not an apologist. I'm a consumer. When I buy a product, I want to consume it. I want to use it. I want to play it. I want to touch it. I want to be wowed by the new games. So, when it comes to the point of being a PlayStation or Xbox apologist, one has to ask themselves, why did we buy these consoles if there's nothing to play on them? Or if everything's getting delayed? So, yeah, I mean, we can look at Jim Ryan, his last statement about, well, the games will come out when they're ready because a broken game will always, I mean, yeah, what did he say? Something about a good game will always be remembered and a great game will always be remembered, but an okay game is not going to get remembered. That's pretty true for the most part. If the game kind of sucks, yeah, dude, nobody's going to care about it. If the game is great, yeah, everybody's going to care about it. But at the same time, we didn't buy these consoles to just wait and wait and wait and wait and wait. And I feel like I kind of feel like Cyberpunk 2077's launch has given developers and the platform holders another excuse to push times out and drive costs up. So, I mean, I read this story last night kind of vaguely, just like, I don't know, but apparently everybody's watching the price lift on the Nintendo OLED, on the Switch OLED, as a means for possibly increasing the price of the PlayStation 5. There's nothing been mentioned about Xbox about this, but we do have confirmation that a PlayStation 5 revision is coming. So, and with people out there as rabid as they are to spend twice as much money as these things are worth, yeah, man, I mean, at the end of the day, the PlayStation 5 is the PlayStation 5. It's not going to be any more powerful. It's not going to be any better than what it is right now. PlayStation games are still going to look the best on the PlayStation, while third-party developers are not going to, it's not going to be a uniform experience, just like it never is. This is where we are starting. I mean, in the PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, and PlayStation 3 era, everybody was still working, at the same level. I mean, yeah, PlayStation's PS3 games did look a little better than everybody else's, but not like leaps and bounds like they do on the PlayStation 4. So on the PlayStation 4, PlayStation games looked freaking amazing. And maybe a few select developers like Squaresoft and, a couple other ones were able to, almost match the visual fidelities and the visual quality of the PlayStation first party studios. But when it comes down to it in the end, everything else, man, was coming out at 1080p or pretty close to 1080p on the PlayStation 4 Pro. So it doesn't matter how much power the PlayStation has. The PlayStation developers are always going to make the best looking games. That's why they wear their crown of best made games, because they know what's in that console and they know how to use that power. Whereas third-party developers that are building, games for all these different platforms, they're trying to manage where they're putting their money and what stuff what technology and everything they're investing in as they go forward with their multi-plat games. So at the end of the day, there's no freaking reason to be a console apologist. Xbox guys do it too, man. They sit and apologize, for nothing coming out and stuff. I understand when I got into the Xbox ecosystem with the Xbox One X, I understood from that point forward, don't get your expectations like way up. Like, I bought that console and the power for the multiplat games, so that they could take more advantage of it and give me, a better experience overall visually on my consoles. The Xbox Series X is no different. Do I have hopes for Xbox to be able to turn around and put out some amazing games? Yeah, I do. I'm a subscriber to Game Pass. I'll be more than happy to pick those games up and try them. If I like them, I'll buy them. Forza Horizon is one of the only games that are like a must buy for me. Fable's a must buy for me. Some of the other stuff, Bethesda games going forward, yeah, I'm excited about the Xbox ecosystem. But I'm not going to apologize for them. I'm not going to apologize for the fact that they haven't put out, that they haven't released any third or first party games this generation yet that are games that I want to play. They have, it's been an up and down road with Xbox. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I love my Xbox for the power and for the experiences that it gives me with across the board. I mean, Microsoft's games, I've never really been a big Microsoft, fanboy for their games or anything. I've always been more of a PlayStation fanboy. So when it comes down to it, Microsoft first party, I buy them, I play them. I definitely do like the Forza Horizon series, probably more than anything else on the Xbox. I mean, the Gears franchise, I've started back at the first one, and I'm kind of going through those because the only ones I ever got through was 4 and 5. So I'm going through those and playing those experiences because they're in 4K and they look good on my Xbox Series X. So yeah, I am going back. I do have with Xbox, I have a catalog, four generations of games that I can play on my Xbox Series X, whereas on my PlayStation 5 I can only play PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 games and pay a $10 fee to stream terrible quality 720p games. So at the end of the day, with the PlayStation console, coming out, that's PlayStation's thing. They've always been like, hey man, we believe in generations, we're gonna move forward, we're gonna drop the last one. This is the first generation PlayStation has ever went out of their way to enhance and upgrade previous generation games. You hear that, right? This is the first time. Like, they've in all 5 generations now, this is the first time that they've actually upgraded games that we already have for the next console. Last generation, at the beginning of the PlayStation 4 generation, I couldn't even play Gran Turismo 6 because they didn't bring it to the PlayStation 4, and it was incompatible with backward compatibility. So we were basically left at the doorstep with our PlayStation 4 through the whole terrible launch of like no exclusives and no games to play. I suffered all through that when I could have bought an Xbox 2 last generation and had plenty of stuff to play at the first of the generation. Xbox came out strong last generation with games, with support, with content. They petered out toward the end of the thing because, they needed new management. They needed to figure things out. I would say Xbox is more on track to highly compete with Sony again this generation, and the fact that PlayStation is they came out swinging with their games and stuff. I mean, Demon Souls was a hit. Miles Morales did pretty good. And then everything in between, up to Ratchet and Clank, has just been, I don't know, man. My biggest problem, though, is I don't buy my first party or my third party games on the PlayStation no more. I buy them all on the Xbox. I have bought some games on the PlayStation 5 that I already have on Xbox so that I can compare them, because there was this whole narrative that PlayStation 5 was running them better and everything else. Well, hey man, I'm here to say that's just not the case. And now I have a VRR TV, so that's definitely not the case. Like, everything runs just as good or better on the Xbox than it does on the PlayStation 5. I don't really, if you have a VRR TV your Xbox experience is going to be pretty good. Like yeah, there's definitely screen tearing in some of the Xbox games that I've noticed, but at the same time, though, that's usually at launch, and then after they get patched and they're fixed, them games run just fine. So, I mean, yeah, you might be getting good games out of the gate on the PlayStation because they're optimized for the PlayStation because that's what they're designed on, and then they're ported over to Xbox. But at the end of the day, them games are going to get patched eventually, and they are going to work better. And companies like, the analyst groups on YouTube, they're not going to go back and check these games and clear the records. So that's just something that you're going to have to endure as an Xbox supporter, because yeah, right now, until more Xboxes are sold and more people are join that ecosystem and give PlayStation more of a run for its money, yeah, man, you're going to get games that are optimized for a PlayStation 5. And let's be honest, dude, what we've gotten so far has been pretty good. Like, yeah, that looks amazing. The PlayStation 5, what it's doing, it is doing good. But when the Xbox takes off and games actually start getting developed on the Xbox and then ported backward, that narrative of the PlayStation being better is going to completely blow away. And just like it did with the Xbox One X and the PlayStation 4 Pro. I don't know if it's going to necessarily be that big of a gap this time, because that was a pretty big gap. Some games would hit PlayStation 4 Pro at like 1080p and they would be like 1800p on the Xbox One X. So it was definitely an eye-opener for me last generation, after being a blind Sony fanboy for over 25 years. The Xbox One X really opened my eyes up to like, wow, man, like look at how fractured the PlayStation experience really is when it comes to first party and third party games. Like it's terrible. It's probably so bad that people literally wait for a PlayStation exclusive just so they can see good graphics on their 4K TV instead of just going out and buying the Xbox One X. They're going to suffer through that because of that brand loyalty, because they want to apologize for PlayStation. Or most people don't even care. To tell you the truth, most people don't even look at that the way some of us hardcore gamers do. I look at this as I don't necessarily look at it as a slap in the face, because yeah, the PS4 Pro was definitely a better experience than the PlayStation 4. But it also sucks that they cheaped out in selling me another piece of hardware that wouldn't really push the new technology in the TV that I had. Like it just wouldn't do it. So when you look at that experience and you go back to like when the PS4 Pro first launched, okay, you're already $400 into your PlayStation 4, right? I mean, and then they want another $400 for the PlayStation 4 Pro. That's not a problem. I mean, honestly, if it would have had power like the Xbox One X, I would have bought it. I'd have been completely happy with that. We probably wouldn't be having this conversation right now, because I would still probably be a blind Sony fanboy. But that's not the case. Sony cheaped out on the hardware. They do that. They do that pretty often. Like right now with the PlayStation 5, they kind of cheaped out on it. They didn't put all the RDNA 2 features in the PlayStation 5. So on the PlayStation side, it's going to be another fractured experience, but this time at least the PlayStation 5 will take better advantage of your 4K TV and the other setups that you have. So at least that is going to give developers a way to at least give us games that looked as good as last generation at 4K. So I mean, I'm pretty happy with that. As long as we don't get below 1440p in a resolution, it usually generally looks okay on a 4K TV. It's still not great by any means, but it definitely looks better than 1080p. 1080p does not look that great on a 4K screen. That's just kind of the way it goes. So yeah, as it sits right now, to be a PlayStation or Xbox apologist, you're wasting your time. You're wasting your time. This is the first year that these consoles are out. Next year is going to be the second year. We usually do not start getting next-gen games for about 3 years into the generation. And that's the way it's always been. Yeah, they're going to look progressively better every one that comes out, so the more that come out, the better. But at the same time, Sony pushing back all their heavy hitters that are basically developed on the PlayStation 4 that are going to run on the PlayStation 4. That means that you're going to be waiting longer for the next Sony Santa Monica. You're going to be waiting not longer for the next what was the other one's coming out? Oh, the next Guerrilla game. Unless they still do have two studios, unless they have another studio working on a completely different project, you're going to be waiting a little bit longer for that. And still nothing's been announced. And if you look at it, Horizon Zero Dawn was the last one they launched. The next one they announced was Horizon Forbidden West. If they are working on a third project, they haven't said anything about it, so that could possibly mean that it's coming out next year, and the development started right after Horizon Zero Dawn, or right before Horizon Zero Dawn, and it's all being designed exclusively for the PlayStation 5. But then we have this problem, because Sony needs to sell as many copies as they can of these games. So are they going to hold release dates back until they get more PS5s out there? Are people going to continue to keep buying PlayStation 5s if they know that they're not going to have any real next-gen content for a while? Why not buy an Xbox? It's basically the same thing now. You know, you're not going to get... And let's be honest, dude. Everything they've launched on the PlayStation 5 to date, I would probably rate it maybe a B, maybe a B because of Demon Souls. Ratchet and Clank, Ratchet and Clank was pretty good, but I don't believe it's worth the $70 price of admission. I'll give them a B because I'm getting the Death Stranding, director's cut, and they're upgrading Ghost of Tsushima. So I'll give them a B for at least bringing next gen features to older games. I'm happy with that. I'm grateful that PlayStation is doing that. We could go back and forth all day long on the pricing that they're giving to us for some of this stuff. In a way, I feel it. In a way, it's fair. In a way, it's not fair. To make us pay for next gen upgrades for a console that we just bought for games that we've already bought in, that they're pushing everything else back. They shouldn't be charging us for these next gen upgrades. But if there is added content, yeah, dude, I'm totally willing to pay for new content. I'm always happy to pay for new content. When it comes to the Xbox side of things, I personally, don't have that much invested in the whole first party experience. So it doesn't necessarily bug me. I bought my Xbox Series X purely at launch for the enhanced backward compatibility and the power that the console had. That was my main focus on buying that Xbox. That doesn't make me an apologist. I'm not going to apologize for them, but them having Game Pass in place for the Xbox ecosystem, that's a boon. I mean, that's good for them, and I'm grateful that they are putting, content into that regularly, so that, if you did buy an Xbox, at least you have something to hold you over. I mean, I've still got plenty of first party Xbox games to go back through that I have, that I own, that I've been playing, on my Xbox Series X. So content wise for Xbox, because I'm basically new to that ecosystem, as in it being my platform of choice going forward, for third party exclusive or third party content and stuff, I've got a lot of stuff to go back and play, and a lot of it's enhanced and it looks better now, so it's easier on my eyes to play that. So it doesn't necessarily matter as much that they're not putting out a lot of first party games right now. Whereas on PlayStation, that matters more than... I know it sounds unfair, but it matters more to me as a PlayStation fan, because I've been in that ecosystem for so freaking long that, I want something. I mean, either way, at the end of the day, me personally, I'm kind of fine because I have both consoles, so I don't have to go super long droughts without anything to play, because I have both consoles, and when one's not developed, just releasing stuff, the other one might be releasing stuff. And it is the end of the year, and I think Sony notices that this is the end of the year, so they will be able to ride the waves of third-party developers, like Call of Duty and everything else that's coming out. So, I mean, it's not like they're not putting anything out. I mean, they do have Deathloop coming out in September. They do have, Kenya Bridge of Spirits coming out in August. They do have content, but they don't have necessarily the content that people were like, gotta have a PlayStation 5 to have that. I don't know anybody that's super excited about Deathloop. I do know a lot of people that want to play Kenya. I want to play it. It looks pretty cool. When it comes down to it, you know, everybody that bought a PlayStation 5 after watching the first PlayStation reveal event, we all thought we were getting Gran Turismo 7 this year. We all thought we were getting Horizon Forbidden West this year. We all thought we were getting the next God of War this year. And those were supposed to happen. Gran Turismo 7 was definitely going to be a next-gen only game. But the God of War and Horizon Forbidden West, I can guarantee that both of those were going to be PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5 cross-gen games. Like, I already knew that. There's just no way that wasn't going to happen. And yeah, those games were slated to come out this year because, yeah, of course they want Sony Santa Monica and Guerrilla working on completely new games for the PlayStation 5, because that's going to put their development time anywhere from 3 to 5 years. And if they're making a new IP, it could take longer. So at the end of the day, there's no reason to be a Sony or Xbox apologist. These guys made consoles. These guys made platforms. These guys want us to engage with those platforms. They need to feed us content because that's what we like to consume. We consume the content after they make it for us. There's not it's one of those things where they either feed us or we go somewhere else because we're starving, we're hungry, we want something to do. PlayStation is going to learn this lesson again. They learned it with the PlayStation 3, but apparently they forgot. The PlayStation 4 generation started off slow, but it was a really good generation overall on the PlayStation first party. So at the end of the day, I said this a few times now, there's no reason to be an apologist for either one of these consoles. They brought us into their ecosystem. Now they need to feed us. So if you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.